What's up, nerds? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be doing an install on our brand new Native Titan X. This is the 12.5 foot edition. We're also going to be in later videos installing a bow mount motor on this, but for today we're going to focus on finding fish. We got a fish finder. So right here we've got the Garmin 93sv with the GT56 transducer. I had to remember which model. So we're going to be installing that with the help of a couple of other companies. So we've got Kayak Hobby involved in this. They do a bunch of 3D printed accessories. Specifically, I'm going with them over Navarre because Navarre makes Old Town specific and Hobie specific accessories. Kayak Hobby is making some native options. So this being the Native Titan X, we went with the trim mount transducer mount that they have. So it keeps it as tight to the hull of the boat underneath as possible so you don't bump and scuff it over every little rock. We're also doing one of their rear protectors for that transducer as well. Obviously we've got the head unit here, and then that head unit got a couple different mounting options for that. I might stick with this, I might not. So I'm gonna throw this out there. You might not see this in later videos if it doesn't work the way I think it's going to. But this is the Boonedox slotted console, and we've got the angle risers for this. So hopefully this is gonna work how I want it to, and it will be able to go up at the front of the boat on these two designated tracks near the front. We'll see. I still want to give it a shot and see if we can make it work. Shout outs to Jeff Little, the Little Stuff, for sending us this from Boonedox. You guys should definitely check them out. We've used Boonedox in the past, love the company. I think they make a lot of cool stuff. It just doesn't always work for the specific model that you're fishing out of, and that's fine. So we're gonna see if we can make it work. If not, no biggie. If it doesn't work, I'm gonna be going with a ram mount because I feel like they're just the most sturdy option out there. And it'll be a ram ball mount, and it'll go somewhere near me, probably on my right side, because I like to land fish on the left side of the boat. Something to think about when you set up your fish finder setup and all that stuff. If that's the case, I might change up how I wire this boat. We'll see in a little bit. The other thing we're gonna be using, we're gonna try a new battery for this build as well. So I've got here an X2 50 amp hour Bluetooth battery. Never used X2 in the past. We've had Dakota lithium. I've also got another untested battery from Power Queen. You'll see that in our trolling motor video because that'll be our trolling motor battery. It's 100 amp hour, it's huge. I didn't get the mini, should have, because it would fit in the battery box here. Regardless, you'll see that in that video. We'll deal with that problem then. But this one's nice and itty bitty for a 50 amp. This thing is tiny, and that is going to be going up front in a designated battery spot that already exists. You guys will see all of this as I walk you through it after I build it out. Finally, we are putting Livescope on this. I'm going to utilize that with this 93sv. So that is going to be the LVS34 module, the newer one. Don't have a solution for the transducer mount yet, but I do have pretty much all the other parts that I need. So we're going to go ahead and start putting this baby together. Here's how this video is gonna work. As I install things, rather than having you watch me install it, which is boring, I'm just gonna put it together and then I'm gonna walk you through what I did, what worked, what didn't work, and any problem solving that had to be done along the way. And then if you are installing on a Native Titan X or a similar large vessel like this, maybe that would help you out as well. Or if you just want to see how this ends up in the end, then join me towards the end of the video. I appreciate you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe for more kayak builds on different kayaks. We work on Crescent, Old Town, Titans. We've done Hobies in the past, all of that. If you want to see more of that content, be subscribed, smash a like on this video. Let's get to building, shall we? We're learning stuff immediately. This is the way every single build goes. Essentially, I'm learning stuff immediately, like I don't have all the parts I need. So I just went ahead and I placed an order on an item from Fishing Specialties. It's essentially a ram ball mount that comes with a through pin for the Livescope LVS34. So this differs from the previous Livescope, the LVS32, in that the LVS32 was easy to use. Period. I had the option to just bolt right to the top of it. This does not. You have to go through here, and it's not threaded. The LVS32 had a threaded option on the inside, so you could actually just screw a ram ball into that and use a ram ball mount, which is what I did on my previous setup. So we had to get something special, and it was not friggin' cheap. This thing is 85 bucks shipped from Fishing Specialties. So that kind of sucked, ouchies. But I'll show you that once it actually arrives at my facilities. I also literally just got this from the mailbox today. So as I was starting to film, Kayak Hobby stuff arrived. So I actually have, this is not a part of this build, but these are Yak Attack Black Pack risers, the 2-inch variety. So the nice thing about these is when I'm using my Old Town, which is down here, you can't see it. The Old Town has a very narrow rear cargo space. This is gonna elevate the box, my crate, so that I can use all the rod holders effectively. Otherwise, they don't really fit. So that's kind of neat. Not necessary for this boat, but an extra. More importantly for this build, what we have is our transducer mount and guard kit. So we're gonna be using this on the GT56 transducer that's gonna be going under the boat. This will keep it super flush to the hull of the boat so it doesn't get scratched up, and it'll also protect the rear end of it in case I back into or bump into anything. Keep this thing safe. Transducers are not cheap. Protect them. So now we're on to actually mounting the unit stuff that matters for today. So we've got some through-hole wiring kits from Yak Attack. I've got the regular variety as well as the XL, and that's gonna be for that Livescope transducer because it is much larger. Also have a whole bunch of different track mount pieces that I'll end up using. Okay, so the slotted console's in place. It was a little bit of a pain in the butt, but they do include the bolts for you to track mount it. Main issue I see with the Native Titan X, one is it's kind of a pro and a con. Pro is you've got these two tracks right up here that are perfect for a console like this, and when mounted, doesn't get in the way of your front hatch, which is nice. You'll have to reach around, you know, your fish finder or whatever is up here, but it's not too big a deal because you got this nice handle here. The con to that is these tracks aren't quite long enough. They're like just a hair too short. So your track bolt is kind of like half on, half off, but there's two of them, so it's secure. The other pain in the butt was that Boonedox used kind of a weird Allen wrench size, I guess, or hex key size for this. So I only had it in this big bulky Allen wrench set that I have. These things are nice, but it does not fit into this area to be able to tighten down. So I had to tighten it before dropping it in. Other than that, pretty cool setup. You can see we've got our measurement if I wanted to use this to measure. If you want to just go, hey, eyeball it. If you're like culling fish for a tournament, maybe that's helpful. Otherwise, I probably won't use it. And then we're gonna be mounting our fish finder now here. All right, nerds, day 2. Last night, I spent a whole bunch of time running a wiring diagram and trying to figure out what I'm gonna do with this boat. So I'm gonna walk you through where we wound up. I think this will be the final piece, and I just had to order 2 more things. So, okay, so here's where we're at. Got a couple issues. So we know that we have the Yak Power, this is their 5 switch panel, right? Circular. You're able to through-hole mount this, keep it watertight. I've done it on my Hobie before. Problem, it's cool and everything, but Native has this slanted, curved surface. So you're not gonna get a nice watertight seal through here. Also, I don't wanna drill any holes in the hull if I don't have to, so I'm gonna avoid it. Okay, so here's what we did yesterday, and I'm pretty proud of it. I'm gonna get this out for you. Here, come here. So we have here what I'm calling our power plate. So this is a product that I used on my Hobie 360. It was designed specifically for that. Notice it's all janked up. That's because I customized it. This was something I got from Dugout Tackle that was made specifically for the Hobie. It used to have curved out cuts here for the 3 rod holders per side the Hobie Pro Angler 14 has. It didn't fit into the Titan X. Obviously, it wasn't made for this, so that makes sense. So what I did is I customized it. I cut all the sides off so that it would fit inside of this small section here, and because there's this little, you see it, kind of flat section there, flat section there, and 2 bolts it can actually sit on, I decided to Velcro it. Boom, Velcro, Velcro, Velcro. It holds super steady and allows me to still utilize my drop-in bin. I've seen guys wire this thing, really well thought out by Native, minus a few things. So you notice these little cutout sections here, that's for wires to go through. The problem is if you want to store wiring and stuff in here, you can't use the drop-in bin unless you cut out the drop-in bin, and I don't want to do that because I want to keep the hull watertight. So something for Native, I would love to see a way to still get in through the drop-in bin. They could build that in, they could have a through-hole kit or whatever. We're gonna customize ours to make it that way. The nice thing is I can put my Garmin network adapter here on the inside of the hull, use my drop-in bin, and I can put our Yak Power 5 panel switcher here underneath as well. So that's pretty neat. So all the wiring is gonna live inside the boat. I'm going to use the Yak Attack through-hole wiring kits. I'm gonna drill holes into this drop-in bin, which is cheap and replaceable, which is great. So if I ever wanna replace it, not have holes in it, I can do that, but it will be watertight because I've got these in there. So I can run all my wires through that, we're good. And then it can come up through here, right? Through this other cutout. So it travels past the battery, through this cutout. And then there is this little piece right here, which will hold all our cables in place right there. and they can go right up to my fish finder, which is gonna go on the Boonedox slotted console. And I will also be running a GoPro front mounted right there, wired full time. So that will go to a USB charger that will be plugged in right here. I ordered that from Yak Power today. So again, the issue with the Yak Power 5-panel switcher is it doesn't come with any extensions. So that little circular dial here for the switcher, it only has about a foot of cable. So it kind of has to go like wherever this goes. And wherever this goes is determined by the battery cable, which is also not very long, as you can see. So I can't get it too far from the battery unless I do what I did on my Hobie, which is I ran one of these cables right here and I had to relay it. So I like had this at the back of the boat. That's where I used to have my battery that I was using for like fish finder and everything on my Hobie. You would plug into this and then this cable would run up almost all the way to the front. Then I have another cable that would extend from there all the way up to the battery. What I found out with my Hobie was that leaves a lot of room for error and disconnect. And I used to have a lot of connection issues with my battery. Some days it would work, some days it wouldn't. Some days the switcher wouldn't turn on. It was a pain in the butt. So I don't want to do that. I want to be as close to the battery as possible. Okay, we're moving right along. I've got holes drilled on either side of this bucket. So that's where the little Yak Attack through hole is going to go. Before I do that, I have to get my wires rigged up. So if you guys have never done this before, when you purchase something like your fish finder, it'll come with these black and red wires separate. It's like your power and ground, and most likely it'll have like a fuse at some point. So I have power for my Livescope network right here, and then I've got power for the head unit right here. So you have to get an adapter cable that fits your battery or power system. So in this case, we're using the Yak Power. Comes with that little 2-outlet system right there that plugs head to head, making it watertight. And you're gonna need to rig these cables together. So in order to do that, I just went to my local hardware store and grabbed a whole bunch of these. They come in different sizes. It's a universal sizing system, so just get the blue ones. They tend to fit this gauge wire best. So you grab that. Now Yak Power does send some, but they suck. They're terrible. So I went ahead and got some marine grade ones. Just a little more watertight. It's just more security. Not necessary, I just prefer to do it. And all you're gonna do is you're gonna slide those over the wire and crimp them down. I'll leave a link. I can't remember which video I saw these in, but somebody was using these. I believe it was Windle Fishing probably. But anyways, these are super cheap on Amazon. It's a 2-pack. So you actually get a wire stripper and crimper, and it's a really nice crimper. So I would highly recommend picking these up. I also picked up from that same video, I believe, this Wire-Fi heat shrink tubing set. You got a million heat shrink tubes in here, and you're gonna want these because once you put these two wires together, you want a little extra layer of safety there. So what you're gonna do is you're first going to cut these down to a size that works. You're gonna slide them over that, and then once you crimp the two wires together, you slide it over the middle of that, heat it up with any sort of lighter. I like to use little torch lighters like that. It'll shrink that heat shrink tubing down, and then I'll go back and I'll wrap it up with electrical tape. So it's super watertight, and it ends up looking like that does. You start with this, you end with this, and then you've got a watertight electrical system. And here's how the process looks if you want to see. So I got to cut these down, cut them down so they fit. This is a shorter wire section, so I had to do that. Slide these on first, do not forget, otherwise you'll be mad. Then take my adapter, put these two together by crimping. So I just crimp one side at a time. This is a really nice tool because it's got yellow, blue, red indicators there telling you what size crimper you need. So put it in the appropriate size, crimp it down. Makes you go as far as you need to on this versus using a manual crimper, kind of a pain in the butt, and it's spring loaded, so it's easy. So I got one side on, do the other. There we go. Make sure they're secure. If you don't get a good connection on the metal inside of this, you will have power issues, so make sure it's on there good. Then, black to black, red to red. We'll go to the black one here first. And sometimes it's kind of a tight fit, so make sure you get that wire all the way down in there. So that's in there good. And then we're gonna crimp it. Okay, secure fit, we're good. Next one, secure fit, we're good. With these better connectors here, it's got a heat shrink material on there as well. So you're gonna be double watertight. Heat those up, don't burn yourself. Number one rule, fire safety. So once that's heat shrunk, then I take my other heat shrink material, slide it over top of that, make sure it's covering it end to end, and then you heat that up. You don't want to melt it, so I kind of just go back and forth. Still fairly close, it can take the heat it's supposed to. And there you go. So once that's done, I like to keep the wires bound up together. So that's where the electrical tape comes in. Plus it adds another less water permeable barrier. So we can make it even more waterproof. Good old electrical tape. And I just start above the wire so you get it fully enclosed, and then wrap my way down. And there you go, wired, ready to go. All right, so once that's done, now I get to actually run the wires through the bin. I'll show you what that looks like in just a sec. All right, so Yak power unit, plugs, they're all numbered and labeled. So we have one, that's gonna be my head unit, and two, the Livescope. And then that will line up with these numbers right here on this dial. So if you wanna say battery power on the water and you don't need the Livescope that day, you can leave it off. And then you're drawing minimal amp hours from your battery just for the head unit and the transducer. Now I've got all this cable, which is what's gonna go through the actual through hole here. All right, so at this point, we just gotta run our cables through our through holes. Okay, so I've got on one side here, one side is just gonna be the battery cable. On the other side, I'm gonna have my network, which will plug into the head unit, and my head unit power. The nice thing about this setup is that the power for the Garmin network unit is just gonna live inside the hole, so I don't need to put that through a through wire kit. Then you take your through wire kit, thread it onto the wires, make sure you're going in the right direction, and you grab all these little rubber gasket pieces you're gonna need. Then we just need to choose the appropriate gaskets. So on the battery side, since I just have the one cable, we're going to have a no hole side and a single hole side. And I'm gonna go with a medium size hole for this. And then all you gotta do for these is you just take your razor blade and you wanna cut an angled slit towards the hole. That way you can wrap around your cable. So we're gonna try this one. So it allows you to open that up. So then I'm gonna open it up, slide in my power cable there, and then slide in my empty side. And they should bunch up and look like that. Show you up close in a little bit once it's in. Here's a couple of tips I got for you guys if you want to do it this way with your Titan X. One, take these Yak Attack through hole mounts, lay them out on the back side, drill the two holes with a small bit. Pretty sure I use like a 1/8 bit. Just tap the screws from the backside because the drill will not fit in here, as you can see. So you can't drill it in this way. You also can't screw it in that way. So all I did was I drilled my 1-inch hole wherever I wanted it. You don't need to line anything up for that. Just put it where you want it. Took the Yak Attack plate piece there, staged it on the back of this, even with this hole, drilled my two holes right there so they'd be even, and then put it back on this side. Took a short screwdriver, something like this, and then my screws, and was able to screw those in and get them started. So once I knew I was lined up and I was good, I then added a little bit of marine goop right around where the screw is going in. You can also kind of like brush it in with your finger around the sides. I don't think it's too necessary. And then got that thing set up. So there's cables for one side. It'll be going to my head unit. And then here's the power to the battery cable on the other side. Both all set. All right, so I got the Yak Hobby piece installed. Check this out. So it's all 3D printed, custom for the Titan X with a GT56 transducer. Here's the rear bump guard, which is pretty neat. So with that all installed, next thing we got to do, mount it to the Kayak underneath, run this cable through. There's a through hole right there, and they do include a stopper just to help keep this super watertight. In order to run the cable through, you got to drill that hole out a little bit bigger. Start with a 5/16 bit, might have to go up to a 1/2 inch. We'll see if it fits through, and then you got to cut a slit down the side so that you can fold the cable into it. And it goes in right there once the cable is through. So we're gonna do that. And then Yak Hobby also includes longer bolts so that you can mount this underneath. And it's gonna go right here where we've already got some pre-installed, pre-tapped bolts there with brass inserts. Good thing that Yak Hobby includes extra bolts for this because the bolts in the Native are that long. They won't do anything. So we got it in, pulled the cable through. Here's the stopper. Ended up putting a 3/8 bit through the middle of it just to give it enough room. And then you really gotta work that thing in there to get it down as far enough as possible. But yeah, that right there should be nice and watertight. Even with the slit around the side, doesn't matter because this little gasket piece is gonna go over top of this, just like so. So that's gonna hold it in, and again, keep any water from kind of splashing up in there. We should be nice and watertight, no issues. Garmin has 1,000,000 feet of cable, so we're just gonna zip tie that and leave it in right next to the battery out of the way. It'll be fine. Check this out. So here it is underneath. Rear bounce cover, you can see it's just under the surface of the hull, so you're not going to be bumping into anything with this. And anything that would bump into it is going to kind of bounce off the keel right here. And it's mounted right up against the hull there, 2 stainless steel bolts with washers. Neat. All right, we have power. So plugged everything in just to make sure it worked. Here's our switcher. Switches are switching, that's good. So number 1 is the Garmin unit. And there we go, we know we have power because I'm finally able to set this thing up. Haven't even unboxed this yet. What am I, store demonstration? Off. Okay, can't do anything yet because I haven't plugged the transducer in, but when I do, I'll be able to use that. Point is, we got power. Okay, a couple hot tips, you guys. Number 1, in order to feed cables through this boat, there are not a lot of spots where you can reach a human-sized arm down into the hull and reach. You're gonna have a tough time. So you need either like a stiff cable, a stick, or an ugly kind of stick in order to be able to feed that. So I've been using this ugly stick. It's a 5-foot light action GX2 that I've had for a million years. And when I ran the forward-facing sonar transducer cable from this power link right there to the front of the boat, all I did was like electrical tape it to this, stick this thing in the hull and just push it through. Super easy. Well, we did this on Paul's Crescent build as well. Highly recommended. So have something like that. One more thing I wanted to point out, if you guys are going with a Yak Power unit and you have a native Titan X, what I would recommend doing is not what I did. The 5-button option is cool. Small, it's compact. The problem with it is it's got a huge, you need a 2-inch hole saw bit to mount this thing because it's meant to be put through hull. So when you want to go not through a hull, you want to go through a bin or maybe through these PowerLink replaceable options, you'd think it could work. It doesn't. It's too big, unfortunately, to fit within the waterproof walls that are on this PowerLink. So instead, I'd recommend getting their bigger panel switcher. It's like longer because that one only mounts with 2 screws on the sides. It's not meant to go through hull. So with that one, yes, it's a little bit pricier, but not by much. Like not by much at all. All you gotta do is just tap 2 screws on this thing and it fits perfectly fine. So maybe in the future I'll upgrade to that. Right now I'm gonna go with what I got. Saw this channel, Untamed Outdoors. You guys should definitely check them out. Use them for reference on quite a few things on this build, so I wanted to shout them out. But Untamed Outdoors did their build and they had the bigger switch panel, which is a much better call than what I have. Not too big a deal. I gotta go into the hatch if I wanna turn it off and on. I'll be fine. So just something I wanted to call out. It will not fit on the PowerLink. These are too narrow for something like that. All right, the build is finally done. I'm gonna walk you guys through it all in just a second. I just finished cleaning this thing up. So we've got the Garmin transducer, we got our console in here, got a couple accessories I'll show you that we got on there, and it all fits even with the propel drive in the way, as well as if I open up the hatch, that's what you wanna see with wiring. So I think we're in a good spot. Let's do a quick rundown. I'll walk you guys through some of the problems and challenges that we ran into and how we solved them. So first things first, we had the Garmin unit flush mounted to the console. The problem we ran into is it was too close to both the hatch so that I couldn't open it without any issue, and to the propel drive, which is a problem. Because if you spin your pedals with these spiky things on it into your beautiful new Garmin screen, you destroy it. So I don't want to have that happen. Here's where things got crazy. So we ended up ordering this RAM mount. It's about 65, 68 bucks, something like that on Amazon. So I picked that up, allows you to mount to this plate right here that is attached to a RAM ball, which is really neat. So having that on there allows me a lot more flexibility. I like it a lot. I also picked up on Amazon this little Alex Tech split sleeve. This was 10 feet and 1/2 inch, and it worked out perfectly for all the cables I wanted to use. So that just keeps it super clean. You can see I've got all the cables housed inside of this thing, and then you just zip tie off the ends. You can cut it to length too. So what I ended up doing is where this network cable splits, I just left that part open. So I got part of a sleeve here, leave that open because the sleeve didn't fit over it. You could probably get a bigger size sleeve and encase the whole thing. So go like 3/4 inch, you'd be good. And then I had the rest of the sleeve pick up here to where the transducer line splits off. And then I had another part of the sleeve go here all the way back. And then check this out, this is pretty neat. I used this desktop cable holder to keep these cables down and in place. So that holds them into this slotted section here that the Kayak has molded in, allowing you to more easily close this hatch and not have any issues. That goes over the top of the battery without making contact, and then we have our battery power coming back down here and connecting to our Yak power system right there. This didn't work out for me. I had our 5-button switcher there going through one side of this bin. Now it won't work on either side, and here's why. This thing has kind of a thick booty, if you will. It sticks out a bit too far, so you can't actually drop the drop-in bin in if you have that going out this side or on this side. There's just not enough play in this space to make that work. Found that out the hard way. Ended up just taking like the plastic pieces that I had cut out with a hole saw, sliding them back in, kind of gluing them and taping them into place. Is what it is. It's waterproof. It doesn't matter if I get mad at this bin, I'll replace it in the future. And if these don't work out, I can just buy another bin. They're 50 bucks. It's not super cheap. It's a lot cheaper than drilling a hole in your boat though, I'll tell you that much. Because if you mess that up, you are screwed. So we ended up putting the switcher in the floor of the bin, which is not an issue. I don't really use this bin for anything other than like a little Busby quick cube you can see back there that has fishing line in it, and my lunchbox. So they can still kind of fit in there and not, you know, have any issues knocking into these buttons, I don't think, because this is raised up. So I don't think the buttons will be pressed. If I have a problem with that, guess what? There's space under my seat, so I can just put that stuff there instead. In addition to that moving, we had to move the USB. So the USB is also on the floor. This has like a really thick booty. It sticks out super far, so it could not fit on either side of this in any way, shape, or form, but it is gonna live here. And this will be an option for running power to my camera or just charging my phone or whatever. It's just a nice little piece of equipment to have, I think, as a bonus here. So this is our electrical bin. Underneath all of this, pretty tight fit. We were able to keep our little Velcro plastic piece that we set up there. I Velcroed the Yak power piece to the side, and the Garmin network unit is actually bolted onto that, so it's not going anywhere. And I was able to get these cables tucked out of the way just enough, and it took some finagling. Like I had to reposition that thing 3 times to figure that out and make it work. But now that it's in a good position here, I can drop the bin in without having any issue with that, which is neat. And then you can see up in the corner there, top right corner, there's that little plastic tab. That's just a cable holder, and that cable holder is just keeping the cables out of the way so I can more easily drop this bin in. But you notice there's no play. This isn't getting pushed up on an angle where potentially worst case scenario like water could get in here. The other thing to note about this, even though these are facing up, this is waterproof. This with the cover on here makes it waterproof, so I'm not gonna have any issues with that. And if it's downpouring rain, I'm not gonna like open the hatch all the way like this and just let water pour in here. So not worried about this section at all. I think it turned out really clean. Again, it took a couple of mulligans. I had to redo a couple things a few times. And, you know, obviously I drilled holes in the wrong spot. Is what it is, was a good learning experience. And when it comes down to it, there just aren't any videos on this. So I think it's interesting, like Native sells Yak Power, Garmin, all these different things, but there's no installs on it. So this kayak, it is really well thought out, and it has endless opportunities for rigging. But until people do it, we don't know like really how it was specified to be done. So you got to make it up on your own. You got to figure out what works for you. This is where I ended up. If you think this is a cool idea, great. If you think it's dumb, great. Just tell me in the comments below. I know it'll work fine. So, I mean, for me, as long as it looks clean and it's functional, I think we're good. So I'm happy with this. You can see here, if I want to take the bin out, I can just disconnect these from this little cable holder here, and then you just kind of push it in to get it back in place, and then I just tuck them down against the side there. And then we'll leave the power cable just loose like that because it lays through the slot easily, unlike all of these cables because they're stiffer and higher gauge. It was kind of tough to get them to stay in place. And you got your battery mounted here. It's just got a little strap that holds it in place. So if I need to charge this, I just take that strap out. I can slide the battery out the side of the compartment here, no problem. And then I can go charge it on my charging station, which I'll show you guys in a second. But as I said before, what's really important with wiring here is that you can close your hatch without worrying about bonking all those cables and causing problems. So hatch closes fine, able to secure it with the latches here, and there you go. Good to go. Last thing that we installed to finish this up is for the forward-facing sonar. So we got our fishing specialties mount here.
There's our LVS 34 transducer. And then down here, you guys can see that we have the Yak Attack XL through-hole wiring kit. This just barely fit on this PowerLink replaceable drillable piece there. These are 15 bucks. If you mess this up, 15 bucks, you can get a new one. There's about 1, 2, 3, 4 on this boat, so you can replace them anytime you want. So I chose to put this on the left side. It would be pretty easy to swap this over to the right if I change my mind in the future. And then this is where those RAM components came into play. What's up, nerds? It's the future, and there's something that I wanted to point out for the forward-facing sonar on this build. I was using a 1-inch RAM ball mount for this Fishing Specialties arm. Do not do that. I wouldn't even use whatever ball mount they send you from Fishing Specialties, because if you intend on having a motor on this, like this, the XI3, which you'll see in another video, or you want to pedal at speed, or you might bump into something, or there's any level of current, that RAM ball is going to move like crazy. So I had that RAM ball mount. It was holding up the Fishing Specialties arm. I went on a trip with Debo's Fishing, Fish Anything, and Paul, and we fished Michigan lakes for like 3 days straight. I had the XI3 at the time. I was motoring around, and this mount was just moving all around. It was not a good fit. So I don't recommend that. What I do recommend is, if you have the Fishing Specialties arm, if you buy any other pre-made arm, like, it's gonna come with a track mount of some sort, but you can track mount the Fishing Specialties arm by just doing what I did here. So all I got was the Yak Attack Mighty Bolt kit. They have a kit, comes with a whole bunch of Mighty Bolts that can be rigged a couple different ways. So I ended up just using the Mighty Bolt with this little thread that goes right down on top. And all I had to do was drill holes into this plate included with your Fishing Specialties arm, right? So this is what holds the arm in place. Can't really rig it while it's on my kayak cart here, but you get the idea. So that's designed for this. And so the nice thing about this setup is that you've got it rigged up on this very wide gunnel here. So it's got lots of security, lots of support, and it doesn't move at all, even at top speed, in current and wind, with the XI3 off the front. So the XI3 can't throw us off. This I'm very happy with. You have to, you know, tap your own holes, fit it up, whatever. But I think it looks good, it's clean, it's super low profile, and it's very secure. So if you do intend on doing a Livescope, forward-facing sonar of any sort, I would recommend this. Oh, you probably want to make sure everything powers up, don't we? Open the front hatch here, go to our buttons, power. 1 is the head unit, 2 is the forward-facing sonar, and this S button right here is what we designated for USB. So USB is getting power. Leave that like that. Go up to our screen. This thing auto turns on. I don't know if that's like a setting I have to change. We'll find out later, but it's powering up right now. I'm gonna show you that all the sonars are functioning, and then we can call this video a day. And again, then if I'm rolling around with my XI3, as long as I have this pedal down, then I can still see my screen perfectly fine. So you can see I'm on the forward-facing sonar setup right now. I can hit home, and I can change this to just clear view. It's my down scan. We can go to our side view, side scan, and it's not gonna show up because I'm not in the water, but it is working. You got the old school sonar, you got all sorts of different stuff that you can do with this. I do also have charts on here. So I've got this set up and loaded with Michigan maps. So any lake I go to, I should be able to like navigate pretty well with. Here's the nav chart, there you go. So it shows the lake I'm on right now. So pretty cool, like the whole thing works great. Let's go ahead and power this system down. And then once that powers off, if you're using a Yak power unit, I always recommend just make sure that turns off before you go up here and hit that master power switch. Now it's all off. So there you go. That's all the wiring and everything. I'm pretty happy with that. Last thing I'll show you is our charging station here. So I'm really, really happy with this. This is a Noco Genius. This is the Gen 5X2. So it's 2 5-amp chargers, 1 and 2. And they come with just the basics, right? So you just put those onto your towers, the little bolts that go on top of your batteries, red, black to black, and you can charge them. It charges really fast. Super pumped about it. It's a 5-amp charger. So I mean, even with a 50-amp-hour battery or a 100-amp-hour battery, you get them charged in a couple hours to, you know, half a day, done. And they have different modes here as well. So you got your standard 12-volt AGM, which is like a jump starter battery, usually like off-road vehicles. Lithium, which is what I'm using for these. And then a repair mode in case you have a damaged battery. So super neat, and then they just turn off when not in use. It wall mounts out of the way, and I can just bring my batteries off the boat, put them over here on this work table that we have, and just charge them up. super easy. All right, you guys, so there is build number 1 for the Native Titan X. We have our Garmin unit on board. So if you want to add a fish finder, add some electronics, hopefully this video was helpful for you. We've got a 5-switch relay system, of which I'm using 3 of those buttons. So I still have 2 buttons left. I could add extra USB, I could add lights, which I may do in the future to this. If you guys got any other thoughts, comments, or ideas, let me know in the comments below. We appreciate it. We're always interested in trying out new things whenever we possibly can. Next up on the Native Titan X, we're gonna install the XI3. I checked the shipping on it. It looks like it may be here within this week. So whenever I got time for that, I'm gonna go ahead and film that install as well. You guys can see that and see what I went through. Now, the cool thing about the XI3 is that Native actually has filmed videos about this, and I ordered their bow mount kit, which comes with everything you should need, although it may come at quite the upcharge, and I'll talk to you guys about that in that video as we go ahead and we install it. I'm getting this boat registered as well, so stay tuned for that part of the process. There's a whole bunch of stuff going on, but hopefully we can get this thing on the water very soon and put it to the test with our new fish finder setup. So make sure you guys stay subscribed, smash a like on this video so you can see more just like it, and we'll catch you on the next one.